All right, here we are again doing another movie retrospective.
Yeah, this is one we grew up with.
Yeah, going back to the 1970s for this one.
Alice, Sweet Alice.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you grew up during the 80s, this one was on HBO and Cinemax a lot.
It was.
It scared the shit out of you when you were a kid.
It's super creepy.
It's creepy, and movies of this era were realistic.
Yeah, there's definitely like kind of like a grungy kind of, especially to this one, it's like kind of like a...
Yeah, they didn't really rely on special effects or anything, and so everything that they showed you happening is something that could happen because it did. They showed it happen on screen.
Yeah.
You're not talking about CGI or anything. They didn't even really use a whole lot of special effects makeup, really. They had blood, but people getting knifed.
Yeah.
And it was the story and just the tenor and the tone of these movies were disturbing, even back then.
Yeah, there is just something about it, like I said, that I don't think they can ever really replicate all that well. Like, some have tried to replicate it more recently and stuff. But I feel like Alice, Sweet Alice, I feel like it's a little bit underappreciated for 70s horror. Maybe not, but it does really seem like a lot of people maybe haven't seen it.
Hadn't seen it in a long time. One of the things we noticed is, of course, it's made in the 70s, like we said. About 76, 77?
76 it came out.
76. We realized it was a period piece.
I never realized that when I was watching it.
The calendar said 1961.
It's supposed to be set in 1961.
And all the cars, of course, were 60s. And it's happening in like an Italian-American community. You know, really super Catholic.
Yeah.
And at the time, I kind of thought it was an Italian movie. But it's not. It's an American movie.
I'll get into that a little bit.
It's a fake Italian movie, actually.
It is, yeah.
It's a fake Giallo movie.
Yeah.
But it's good.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it had little what's-her-name in it.
Little what's-her-name?
You know what I'm talking about.
Shields.
Brooke Shields, the one Michael Jackson was all into. She's probably about 12 in it. Maybe.
I know. I think she's younger than that.
Younger.
This is actually her first movie. I think she was only 9 or 10.
Okay, well, she's cute as a bug. And then there's another girl who's playing her sister. I thought it was a twin sister, but I guess it's an older sister.
No, she's older.
And she's this little...
She's supposed to be 12 in the movie.
Yeah, I forgot what her name was.
Paula Shepherd is the actress.
Yeah, Paula Shepherd. She's in another movie called Liquid Sky, which is kind of like a new romantic goth movie.
That was from 82.
From 82.
It's on Shudder right now. Check it. It's super, super weird.
Super fucking weird. It had all kind of weird gender bending and necrophilia and shit.
And aliens coming looking for heroin.
Aliens and shit.
I think that's what... I don't really know what it was about.
That movie is
that was a fucking weird movie.
That movie's what happens when you take all your goth friends together in the club and you make a movie. That's what that was about.
And you take all the drugs. And, pretty much. And
you got people playing two parts, a male part and a female part. But that part was pretty cool. I was telling Jenny, I says, that's not a guy, that's a girl. She goes, no, that's a guy. I said, that is a girl. And it turned out that girl was playing both the male role and the female role.
Yeah, I didn't really notice.
Yeah, I could tell that wasn't a guy.
Because, like I said, everyone looked very androgynous.
Yeah,
so I couldn't really tell.
But anyway, the girl that plays Alice is also in that movie. And she's probably about, 19 or 20
No, she was actually 19 in this movie.
Okay. She's a little woman.
She is a tiny person.
She's maybe 4'10", 4'11".
That's why she played a kid in this.
She could play a child. She kind of passes for a child.
And she has that baby face, like a little round baby face.
She's cute.
Yeah.
But then in the other one, she was in her 20s and she was playing this fucking crazy-ass, like, necrophiliac fucking weird chick. I recommend that movie, too. That one was fucking fun.
If you're, like, into really weird, like, 80s cinema, it's on Shudder right now, so you can probably get it other places, too. But, yeah, it's, like, super, super weird.
You gotta be patient with that movie because it just tells the story it wants to tell you.
Yeah.
You can't make that something that it isn't.
And like I said, it doesn't really have much of a plot or narrative or anything like that.
Aliens trying to steal the heroin out of people's veins, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what was going on.
What it was.
I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, really shit happened.
But yeah, so Alice, Sweet Alice was actually, the guy that directed it was named Alfred Soule. Now, prior to doing this movie, he only had one film credit, and it was a porno. It was called Deep Sleep, and it came out in 1972. Now, he got in a lot of legal hot water filming this porno. I tried to figure out, like, what exactly was the problem. Like, he filmed it in Paterson, New Jersey, just like Alice, Sweet Alice was also filmed there. That was his hometown. That was where he grew up. So he filmed this porno there, and then he got brought up on obscenity charges.
Yeah.
Because I guess, like, because I looked at the charges, and it was, like, against him and, like, some of the actors of the film for fornication
Well,
which is unmarried people having sex, which was apparently illegal back then.
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of weird county laws, and
it must have been that.
They could come at you with all kinds of crazy shit. Probably what happened is that he was in an area where the county and the local authorities didn't want a pornographic film being filmed.
That's what I think happened.
So they came at him with all kinds of weird ass shit, you know what I mean, in order to drive him out. And also another thing is that for the younger audiences, you know, porn in the 70s was not the porn of today. Porn in the 70s, a lot of it was actually full-length production films. They were movies.
Well, yeah, because they played at theaters.
Yeah, they played them at theaters. They had whole stories, and you know what I mean? They actually acted in them.
Who wants that?
Yeah, it wasn't efficient. It went out with a dinosaur. 80s VHS killed that off.
It's like nobody wants to sit through an hour and a half porno movie.
Well, evidently they had big Hollywood openings, and they were supposed to be competing with Hollywood, and it was going on. They were trying to be respectable.
Yeah.
Like they were real movies.
Well, it kind of worked.
They were real movies.
In the late 70s.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of went mainstream for a time, particularly after, like, Marilyn Chambers. And
other guys got involved with porn, though, and they were like, that's not what people want. They just want the sex. They don't want the stories. So they would just sell VHS with a bunch of little scenes.
Yeah.
And that's
kind of
so the old porn went out
because they were right. They're like, nobody wants to sit through a 90-minute
Yeah, that dominated the market.
Of them, like, talking to each other and stuff. It's like, who the fuck wants to see that?
Mm-hmm.
We'd watch a real movie if we wanted to see it.
Who would want to go to a theater full of dudes fucking...
Tugging
it to that fucking movie.
That's what I mean. Super gross.
Who'd want that? It was just weird.
Walking VHS, through the sticky ass floor.
Yeah, VHS fucking killed all that, and I'm glad that it killed all that. That was that's nasty.
It is pretty nasty. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, so there was like some legal issues, like he was not allowed to make another movie, like in Paterson, New Jersey for like 2 years. He didn't do any prison time or anything like that. Even if you did, like, even the charges of like fornication, I think it was like only a $50 fine or something like that. So it wasn't a huge deal, but they were just like being a pain in the ass just for the sake of being a pain in the ass because they didn't like the idea of somebody filming a porno there. Now, the idea for doing this legit movie came after he saw the awesome, and actually one of my favorite 70s horror movies, the awesome movie Don't Look Now, directed by Nicholas Roeg, which we actually did a review of earlier on the show. Now, he saw that movie, which came out in 1973, and he wanted to do something similar to it. And there are very obvious homages to that movie in this one, like the killer wears a raincoat, in Don't Look Now it was red, and this one it's yellow. And how the plot goes down, and I am going to spoil this, so if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, you can actually watch it for free on Tubi.
And on YouTube.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if you want it, because the YouTube one is like the shitty VHS transfer.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to see it better, and you can see it for nothing, you just go on Tubi. TV, they have it. I just checked earlier today, and we watched
the YouTube version. It's
we did, yeah. Yeah, it looks fine. And apparently either late last year or early this year, Arrow Video released like a deluxe Blu-ray of it that it's all been restored. This audio's been restored. Like there's like a shit ton of like extras on it. And everything I've seen of it, I haven't seen the Blu-ray transfer, but everybody that I've seen review it is that it's beautiful. Because this is a nice looking movie. But as I said, you can really see the influence of Don't Look Now. Even though Don't Look Now was more like a psychological horror, I would call this one more a slasher, but classier than that term implies. You know what I'm saying? It is a slasher in the sense... like a
psychological thriller / murder mystery.
Yeah,
it's kind of what it's like.
Because it does have like a killer in, an outfit and a mask, like going around killing multiple people, and you don't know who it is. And like you said, this is very much like a giallo movie. Interestingly, though...
the difference, though, is that this one makes sense. And a lot of giallo movies don't make sense.
They don't, yeah.
It's more about style over substance. Yeah. This one actually has a story that makes sense. I mean, you know...
But I mean, it is like
it has that style.
It's a similar vibe.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it, though, is that the director of this movie said that he had never seen a giallo movie before he made this. And then, like, he was... or at least he said he'd never seen any Dario Argento or anything like that. Right. But he said, I didn't really see any... But the fact that he based it off of Hitchcock and based it off of Don't Look Now...
that's what they were doing.
Those were, Hitchcock was obviously a big influence on giallo films, and Don't Look Now was also influenced by giallo films. So if you're going to do something in that line... Yeah.
And there's another thing about this movie, is that in a weird way, it also kind of reminds me of a movie called The Other.
It is kind of like that.
It has a... if you haven't seen that one, that's a good one to see.
We did a review on that one.
On that one. Check The Other out. That's
this
classic.
also, it gives me a little bit of a Black Christmas vibe. Also, little bit of Black Christmas in there too.
Yeah.
But the whole setup of this movie is that Brooke Shields is she's supposed to be 9 or 10 in the movie, and at the beginning she's gonna go through her first communion. Now she has an older sister named Alice, who's played by Paula Shepherd, who, as I said, she turned 19 while they were filming this movie, but she pulls. I never would have guessed that she was.
She looks like she's about 12.
That
13.
she was that, and she's supposed to be 12 in the movie.
Yeah.
So clearly there's like a really like toxic like family dynamic. Like you can tell that the older sister is, well, the younger sister played by Brooke Shields, whose name is Kieron. She is obviously the favored sister. She's super sweet and like everybody loves her. And the older sister is a little kind of cranky and she's very, very jealous of her younger sister. Now there's some shit too, because Brooke Shields is getting her first communion, but Alice didn't get communion because her parents were divorced.
Are we in spoiler territory now?
Well, I said before, it's like from here on out, just like it's just probably.
If you want to see it, go ahead and check out.
Go to Tubi and watch it.
Right.
It's on there for free. You don't have to pay
because the movie's a mind fuck.
It is.
You're thinking something's happening and you're going, damn, but then you find out that, damn it, you had it all wrong all along.
But I like that they leave it ambiguous too, because here's what happens. Now, interestingly, when they first started marketing this movie, and like I said, he wanted to call it Communion. That was the original title of the movie. But when it was picked up by the U.S. distributors, they said, we can't call it that because we don't want people thinking it's a Christian movie, because, that would be like too niche or whatever. So they gave it the name Alice, Sweet Alice. I've also seen it, and then after Brooke Shields got super famous, like after Pretty Baby came out in 1978, then they re-released this movie, like recut a little bit in 1981 and called it Holy Terror. Now, interestingly, even though Brooke Shields was all over and she's on the poster and everything like that, she is in this for maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
She gets killed like almost immediately, in this movie.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, she got killed, and I was like, wait a minute, they killed off Brooke Shields?
Yeah. Well, she wasn't a star then.
She wasn't a star back then.
And it's like, and it's only later that they were like, oh, it's Brooke Shields' first movie, even though, like, she's literally in it, maybe not even 5 minutes.
Yeah, and she's like cute as a bug in it, too.
She really is. She's adorable.
And her eyebrows weren't totally out of control like they became later on. She's cute as a bug.
She's probably more famous for her eyebrows than anything else.
You could see why she became a star.
Yeah.
When you saw her in this movie at that age. She's not easy to forget.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why didn't Shepard become a star? Because she was badass too.
Well, this is what happened to her, because I looked her up. I was curious about that as well, because I was like, because when we were watching Liquid Sky the other day, I'm like, hey, that's the girl from Alice, Sweet Alice. I recognized her immediately because she didn't really look that different.
Yeah, she's cute as hell, and like a good actress. She like.
And I looked her up afterward. After she did Liquid Sky, she retired. She didn't want to act anymore.
Said fuck it.
She just went and like got married and became a mom.
Okay.
So, which is weird because like she always plays these, well, in the two movies she was in, she always played like these like kind of evil, badass kind of characters, and then she was like, no, I just wanted to go be a mom. So she retired. She just didn't want to act anymore. That's why.
Well, that's good. It was her choice. It wasn't like
it wasn't like she got blackballed or or any other reason. She just didn't want to do it.
She, in my opinion, she can do what she wants to do, but I would like to have seen her in some other movies. When the 80s rolled around, there would have been some badass roles she could have been in.
Oh, yeah. Because she totally steals this movie, I have to say. But yeah, so Brooke Shields' character, Kieron, she's having her first communion, and her older sister is very jealous about it. She's jealous of all this attention that her sister is getting that she didn't get. Her parents are divorced. And her mom is clearly, like, favoring the younger sister. She talks to the older one kind of like she's a dog. It's kind of upsetting. But, so, at the first communion, Kieron gets dragged into the back, strangled, put into the little bench thing, like the transept or whatever they call that, and then set on fire.
Yeah. And
in the middle of the communion.
Yeah, and you're convinced that the sister did it, that Alice did it.
Well, because it very clearly looks like, because here's the thing, as soon as, you see the body and you see like the killer with the yellow raincoat and the mask and everything, and then smoke starts coming out of the bench or whatever, and then Alice comes in wearing a veil that is presumably her sister's.
Yeah.
and, you know, crouches down at the thing, like, trying to get communion, and they won't give it to her.
Yeah.
So everyone starts to think that she did it. And the movie wants to make you think that she is guilty.
You go through this whole movie, pretty much, thinking that Alice is knocking these people off. And all of a sudden, you find, even including her dad, and then by the time the dad almost gets knocked off, they tell you that it's not her. It turned out that you were actually putting this on an innocent girl the whole time.
Yeah,
there was an older woman who was impersonating this girl.
Yeah.
Dressed up in a costume, you know, it looked like something Alice would wear. But it wasn't.
Yeah, because
Somebody
those
else.
yellow raincoats were actually, like, from the church, or from, like, that Catholic school or whatever it was. So, like, a lot of kids had those. But yeah, the Halloween mask, because you see Alice wearing it early, like in an early scene, like she wears it and she steals her sister's doll and like scares her in a warehouse.
And then there's all this kind of inappropriate 70s shit, like the cops fucking talking about fucking Alice's titties. And she's
even though she's 12.
She's supposed to be 12 and they're talking about it. It's fucking... And then there's like fucking the pervy-ass landlord who looks like the fucking fat Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
Up there trying to put
Phantom LaVey.
Phantom LaVey. Trying to put the moves on this little girl and trying to molest her and shit. She kills his cat in revenge. I mean, there's all kinds of fucking badass shit that would only happen in a 70s flick.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. You know,
there's some disturbing shit in this movie.
70s was even more politically incorrect than the 80s were. And
It's
sometimes
like,
you thought the 80s were... The 70s were into some fucking pervy ass shit.
There's some fucked up shit
They
going
would directly address that shit.
I mean, honestly, and it's weird because just today I watched the William Friedkin movie Cruising from 1980, which had very young Al Pacino, you know, going undercover like in the leather bar, like the gay scene, and then like trying to catch a serial killer. And I was amazed at what they put in a movie in 1980. I was like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. But
70s and early 80s, they didn't give a fuck.
They would just put anything in there. So
if it was subversive, then it was cool. So they would put it in there.
So like I said, I mean, this whole movie, the first 5 minutes, she's a 9-year-old girl gets strangled and set on fire.
Yeah.
Then you think through the whole thing that a 12-year-old girl is the one doing the killing.
Yeah.
And like you said, the interesting thing about it is that Alice's character, I like that they portray her. I mean, obviously they portray her as like a brat, and she's like always, you know, up to like sketchy shit, but they're almost kind of implying, she wasn't the murderer, but
she was sketchy.
She was sketchy, and she might become a murderer, like, because the last scene of it kind of suggests. So it's almost kind of like it's like kind of like what we were talking about, like on our show about Ed Kemper, where it's like a feedback loop,
right?
Because she feels neglected by her family. And because they think, even though they don't say it to her face, they think that she killed her sister and that she killed these other people, like she stabbed her aunt and stuff like that. So because they think that makes her act out even more, because she thinks that they don't love her and they don't trust her, they don't believe her. And so in some ways, the movie kind of hints that this feedback loop is going to make her go in that direction, because she has that proclivity already.
Yeah, because they end off the movie with a scene where, of course, you know what I mean, she's absolved, and they're fucking they're taking the guilty party into custody. Was she killed? Yeah, she was killed, wasn't she?
Who,
the crazy ass woman? Was she killed or just captured?
I don't remember if they killed her or not.
I think maybe they just captured her.
Yeah.
But then the camera pans over to Alice at the very end, and she's kind of like picking up the mantle. She's got her knife. Yeah, that's what I mean. She's got the knife of the killer and the mask, and she's trying to fucking hide it all in her purse. Like she's going to take up the damn murder spree herself, you know? Because, you know...
Everyone treats her really badly.
It was all the bad blood that they had blamed her. The whole, you know, that they had believed that she was doing all these murders.
Like I said, everyone blamed her. And it's like, and then, like I said, there's this whole thing where she does do horrible shit. She kills the landlord's cat. Mm-hmm. You know, she leaves like a jar of cockroaches on it. Although I don't care about that because that guy was like,
he was kind of,
he was like very rapey.
He was trying to molest her.
Interestingly, that guy that played that character, this was one of only 3 movies he was in. He was also in Bloodsucking Freaks, and he was in one other one.
He was quite cool. I like
it's interestingly, the director of this found him because one of his things, he was actually a bouncer in a gay bar around there.
Okay, yeah.
But one of his side gigs was he would hang out in a cemetery dressed as a priest, and he would take money from people to, like, absolve them of various things. He wasn't really a priest, but he was, like, this kind of... priest. Yeah, he was, like, this local character. So the director, like, knew of him and was we have to put him in the movie.
He looked like Anton LaVey. He's bald. He's got the fucking Anton LaVey.
Except he weighed, like, 500 pounds.
He was fat, yeah.
And he had pants with, like, a pea stain on the front that he never changed.
Yeah, nasty fucker.
You really feel like you need a shower.
And he can't really act, but... he's an effective character in the movie.
It is. Yeah, it's like this movie is like full of like weird characters. Yeah. Like because like the woman that plays the Aunt Annie. Yeah. When she comes like after Brooke Shields' character gets murdered, like the aunt comes there to help out the kid's mom, and her and Alice hate each other. Mm-hmm. So, when the aunt gets stabbed, like she lives, but when the aunt gets stabbed, like you think, well, obviously Alice had reason to stab her because she was like a bitch on wheels and she hated that little girl. But like I said, it was just, that's what I really like about this movie. It's like, it's kind of like a nasty movie because they're putting all this on a 12-year-old. Yeah, she wasn't the murderer. She didn't end up being the murderer, but she was still up to some like questionable shit.
I didn't know that they had a Blu-ray release of this. I'm actually...
It's really recent.
Yeah, now that you said that, I'm actually kind of thinking about maybe buying that because this is a good movie to have in your catalog. It does have this certain gestalt to it. This vibe. It feels very kind of illicit in a certain way.
Yeah, like a lot of movies from that era did.
You have interior shots of these these apartment buildings that almost kind of have a Victorian look to them. Yeah. And you could tell that it's like really old school lead-based paint. It's real fucking thick, nasty paint on all the fucking door jambs and shit, you know what I mean? And it just looks creepy and scuzzy.
Oh, yeah.
The whole fucking movie does. Well, but that's the way things were, when I was living in Detroit, I was in some of these old buildings from that era. And yeah, that's the way they were. There was something kind of eerie about all those old buildings. Like the fucking ceiling tiles look like shit. You know what I mean? They look like tacky patterns and crap. You know what I mean? And they just kind of had a tomb-like feel to everything.
Well, and a lot of people have commented on that. Now, what's interesting is that Alfred Soul, the director, before he started making movies, he was actually an architect, and he worked on restorations. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the buildings that they shot in Paterson, New Jersey, he had worked on, doing restorations. So he actually got access to a lot of these buildings that he maybe wouldn't have otherwise. Yeah. Because this movie, I mean, this seemed like a passion project for him. He basically remortgaged his house. Yeah. He cleaned out his savings account. He wrote it with, he wrote the screenplay with his neighbor, who was like an English professor or something like that, named Rosemary Ritvo. Unfortunately, I don't think she ever wrote anything ever again, other than maybe some couple scholarly textbooks or something. But, they got to talking. They were both lapsed Catholics. And I feel like Alfred Soul, particularly after all of the shit that he had to go through with his porno movie, was kind of he also got excommunicated from the Catholic Church when he did the porno movie. So he was not a fan anymore. And so a lot of, I feel like this movie had kind of particularly in Ireland, which was, a very Catholic country at the time, they had a big problem with it because they thought it was very anti-Catholic, which it kind of is because...
Is it?
Well, there's a couple characters that are sympathetic, the young priest is sympathetic and everything, but the way they portray Catholicism, it's almost kind of I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it anti-Catholic.
I don't think so.
It does kind of use Catholicism as a way of
Well, that was the backdrop. That was the motif of this family. It's an Italian-American community, and they're going to be Catholic. I don't have anything against religion. I like religions, as long as they're taken for what they are. I look at the movie and I don't see any disrespect. I just see, a backdrop. That's who that community was and this shit happened in there. They just didn't like the story.
I guess it's because the killer ended up being that super Catholic. Because she ended up, her whole motivation...
Right. But that's realistic. Yeah. Though. That would have been realistic.
Her whole motivation was that...
she wanted to go to heaven.
She was mad because the little girl, the Brooke Shields character, was being given communion even though her parents were divorced, even though the older daughter had been denied communion. So she, like the lady that was the killer, she kind of had taken it upon herself to punish people she thought were sinners. She thought she was doing what the church wanted.
I understand. I understand it. I'm looking at it from that point of view. I kind of disagree with them, though. I think that it had a Catholic motif. I thought it was very cool, very effective to have that look and that background, very realistic.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't think it was anything against a Catholicism. You just had a psycho.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a Catholic background. That's like that
like
with
you
everything.
said, it was kind of like, because they did have some, like the,
they had
like
good people that were
like
Catholics.
Father Tom, the young priest at the beginning. He was like he was a
good
nice
guy, and she killed
character.
him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
that old lady killed him.
The old lady killed him. So it was not an anti-religion movie, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I don't think it was.
And the thing is, you have to think, too, that there's been a really lot of horror movies that are focused around Catholicism. I mean, how can you not? Like, with all those, like, cathedrals and candles
the
and...
Catholics understand style.
Right, exactly. It's just creepy. All of their shit is creepy.
Yeah, they're very... The Catholicism...
Blood drinking, cannibalism, all of that.
If you're gonna be religious, be a Catholic. It's very fucking goth. It's a fucking goth.
It's a goth
religion. So you know what I mean. I like it. You know what I mean. It's creepy. Yeah, it is. But it also has its own. You know what I mean? Grandeur to it.
Yeah.
It's very, it's very grandiose. I like the style.
Well, like I said, you can see why so many horror movies have been made, centered around Catholicism, around the Catholic Church. I mean, even like The Exorcist and stuff, and Stigmata and shit like that.
If I was going to go to church, I'd go to a Catholic church.
Because look at
just the music and the visuals.
Well,
man.
yeah,
come on.
You don't even have to like set dress shit. No. You just go in your local Catholic, cathedral and shit, and you just film in there, and it's like there's your horror movie. It's in the can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just saying that, like, at the time, like, honestly, it seemed like it got really good reviews at the time, but a couple people were kind of like, oh, it seems anti-Catholic or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't really get that. I didn't grow up Catholic, so I wouldn't really know, and I wouldn't be offended anyway. But
I thought it was an excellent movie.
And the thing is, well, I think there was a thing too about
back in the day, they didn't like any kind of fucking, you know what I'm talking about. They didn't like any. I know what they're talking about. That's a very old school critique of this movie.
Well, yeah.
They thought everything was an attack on religion back in those days. But by today's standards, that's not anti-Catholic.
No, you would. Like I said, if you were watching it today, I don't think that would even occur to you.
No, it didn't even occur to me. No,
because I mean, like I said, I could see how because I think that a lot of Alice's jealousy stemmed from the fact that she was denied communion because her parents were divorced, because that was kind of like a big deal. I mean, like I said, even though this came out in 1976, you have to imagine it was set in 1961. And the director set it in 1961 because he wanted it, that was when he grew up. And that was how he...
retro in the day.
So that was how he remembered it. He's like, I wanted it to be like my childhood was, because he was also raised in the Catholic Church and in a very like close-knit working class Catholic community. Yeah. So he was like, I wanted it to be like I remembered it. So that's why he said it back in 1961. Even though if you're watching it now, like I said, when I watched it, I didn't even realize that it was supposed to be earlier than that. It didn't really occur.
I felt something was wrong with the cars and the way certain things looked, and like they didn't have any, there was no mention of 70s stuff.
Yeah.
And then I noticed in the background the calendar was set on 1961.
Yeah.
And I pointed it out. It says, look.
And I was like,
this is a period piece.
Yeah.
And then it started to fall into place.
But that's why, because that's when he was a kid.
Right, yeah.
So he wanted it to be like...
It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It is. Like I said, there's a lot of... And it's one that you really need to see. It's kind of like Don't Look Now in the sense that you need to see it a bunch of times, because there's a bunch of shit like going on in this that I don't think is really obvious on the first go-around.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of parallels between the relationship between the two sisters and the relationship between the mom and the aunt. There's a lot of, there's a lot of shit about like blood, about the communion, about the girl having her period and not telling her mom. There's like all this kind of stuff that's going on. But like I said, it's like a slasher in the sense that it's pretty violent for the time. Like a lot of the stabbings are Giallo-esque.
Yeah.
You know, you get to see like a knife going into a foot.
Or it's
and like
suggested that it's violent.
Yeah.
It's a creepy. I think a lot of it was suggested.
Yeah, a lot of it was. There was a lot of blood in it, but you didn't.
But you didn't actually see exactly what had happened.
Yeah,
in
except
detail.
for that foot stabbing.
Yeah. Well, in the barn scene where she was going to when she tied him up and was getting ready to throw him out
and she like
beating him
smashed
in the face.
his face, like his teeth, like with a
try
rock.
To get the cross back out.
That was pretty nasty. Yeah. So it does have like some nasty kind of shit in it, but as I said, I would call this a slasher, but not in the Friday the 13th
in the
Friday
way.
the 13th kind of sense.
Yeah.
This is more like
it's a lot slower than that.
Yeah, and it plays a lot more with like the psychological horror, like the family drama, like the horror between like the characters. And
I see these reviews of like some of these younger people, they'll say that even Conan the Barbarian, it was slow. You know what I mean? And I think it's because a lot of these young kids, they don't understand philosophy. And they don't understand the meaning of certain things. They want everything to be like a video game where it just happens fucking 1 second after another. They don't really understand the ambience and the tone of a movie. Some stories have to be told kind of slowly. And this is one of those stories.
Yeah.
It unfolds at a certain speed. You have to fucking watch what's happening and kind of immerse yourself in that world. Because in the 70s, films were supposed to be kind of realistic.
Yeah.
If we watch movies today, we go to the theater all the time on A-list. The movies that we see today are fast-paced, but they're not realistic. That's not the way life unfolds. It doesn't unfold at that speed. And that change happened really, I think, in the 80s.
It did, yeah.
And I think a lot of the younger people of today, I sound like an old fucking man, don't I?
You do, yes.
Yeah, I can't understand it.
Grandpa.
A lot of the younger people today are actually used to stories unfolding a lot faster.
Yeah.
They don't fucking enjoy the ride the way we did.
Well, and I think horror movies in particular, you know, and I don't want to make like a categorical statement because sometimes you can just have like a long pretentious slog that doesn't need to be as long as it is.
Yeah.
But I think horror in particular as a genre, I think that it benefits from having room to breathe.
Yeah, it's got to be
having
slow.
room to build up an atmosphere, build up so that you care about the characters.
Exactly.
You know, because it makes the horror more impactful.
Right.
I feel like if you just have people getting slashed, you know,
one after the other,
it's like nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
That gets boring.
Yeah, because you're making it an action movie.
And you don't give a shit about the people, so it's like it doesn't have any impact.
Right.
That's why I kind of like movies. I mean, like I said, I like gory movies as much as anybody, but in some ways, I like movies that take the time to build up the situation, to build up the characters, so that when someone gets murdered, you're like, oh, shit, oh, no. You know what I mean?
Right, and this one does that. I mean, even the evil landlord, fat, what did I call him? The fat...
Phantom LaVey.
Phantom LaVey, yeah.
What's another one? I'm trying to think of another...
LaVey.
I'm trying to think of another word for fat that would fit in better to that.
They actually give you time to get to know Phantom LaVey. You know what I mean? In an action movie, it wouldn't be that way. Phantom LaVey would get fucking 20 seconds of screen time. That was it. So, you know, I just liked the way they did 70s horror.
Yeah.
I liked it.
And like you said, this is structured. I mean, if you're into Italian Giallo movies,
it's structured
you should be
like that.
Go get on this.
But more coherent.
You will love this shit. Yeah, it's more coherent.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say, because Giallo movies, I mean, yeah, they get a lot of flack for like being incoherent, like the plot's incoherent and stuff. But I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
And some of them make a lot more sense than others. Some of them are just like straight up murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And, you know, are pretty straightforward. Yeah. I think Dario Argento, you know, his movies kind of like got into that because he was very into like the dreamlike imagery and everything like that. But I think if you watch his movies more than once, they mostly kind of make sense.
I would put this up there with almost kind of like The Tenet. And some people, I saw some comments on our review of The Tenet where people watched it, you know, and it was a younger guy, and he's like, man, I wasted all my time watching that movie, The Tenet. The Tenet was fucking awesome. I love The Tenet. It was a slow burning movie, and it was a movie about a motherfucker. When you got done with that movie, you're like, that was weird, but what was that about? What actually
well,
happened?
like I said, I always like movies that
And
I
it
feel
just
like
left
I need
you
to watch that
very-
shit again. Like you want to watch it again.
Left you very alienated at the end. You're like, what happened? Was he
I did
possessed?
feel really weird after that.
Yeah, was that guy possessed or what?
And I love that. I keep looking for
Right.
that in horror movies.
Yeah.
It's like I want a horror movie that makes me feel like super weird.
Yeah, and in case you guys don't know, go see our review of The Tenet. The Tenet was a Roman Polanski movie, and a lot of people talk shit about Roman because what happened.
Yeah,
that
but
was
he made
in another era.
He made some kick-ass movies, though.
His movie, that particular movie there, The Tenet,
was
was a masterpiece.
We need to do Repulsion too.
Yeah,
One of these days,
Polanski-
because I fucking love Repulsion.
Polanski knew how to make an old school movie.
Well, he knew how to like unsettle you.
Yeah, he was.
The problem, I think, and I don't think, because I've seen like, it's I don't think it's just a problem of the younger generation. Because a lot of horror channels that I watch on YouTube, a lot of them are younger people, like in their 20s or 30s, and they're into the same movies that I'm into.
Okay.
So I think it's more a personality type, because I've seen
Maybe.
like some older people type too that are just like, I think some people just have like
Maybe you're right.
impatience. And I think too, there's a thing, particularly in the horror genre, and I fucking hate this. I hate people that, they'll watch all this shit and it's like, oh, nothing scares me. It's like, it's not scary. It's not this, that, and the other thing. And I think the problem is that they won't let themselves get immersed in the movie. They won't like let themselves feel the emotions that so I always get like pissed off at these like, and I'm sure they're probably like 13 years old or something like that. Like all these fucking edgelords coming on and going, oh, I watched a Serbian film and I just laughed through the whole thing. But I'm just like, ooh, oh, don't cut yourself on that edge, kid. Whatever. So it's like, so I hate that kind of person. If you're going to watch horror and appreciate horror, I mean, I'm not going to shit. It's like, you like what you like or whatever. But if you're going to watch a horror movie, let yourself surrender to the movie. Yeah. Get into the movie. Let yourself like feel the emotions that are put forth by the movie, and then see how you feel about it. Don't like spend the whole time being all detached and like you're too cool to be scared by it, or you're too cool for this and that. It's like, that's not, I just feel like that's not going to be effective. You're not really going to enjoy anything like that. You know what I mean?
And if you're talking about The Tenet and Polanski, that was almost a Kubrickian horror movie.
It was, yeah.
It was very detailed, very, very odd.
I tell you what, that fucking...
Very unsettling.
See, this is something that always bothers me in movies. And the Tenet did it. David Lynch does it a lot. And I don't know why, but it freaks me the fuck out. I hate it. Well, I don't hate it. I love it, actually. But it, like, freaks me out. When somebody, like, looks and they see their doppelganger. Yeah. Oh, that freaks me.
And that happened in The Tenet,
and too. In The Tenet, like, when he looks out the window and then he looks in the bathroom and then, like, that freaks me the fuck out.
He finds a tooth inside the wall and just all the weird shit that he found.
Like, see, to me, like, suggestion is scarier. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I feel like
wasn't just us, because Skinny Puppy fucking quoted The Tenet over and over again in all those songs about, Well,
and like I said, I've seen so many, like, reviews
you
of
take off my head, what do I see? Do I see me in my head or me in my body?
Yeah.
What right does my head have to call itself me? That's some weird shit.
Yeah, that's
what right does your head have to call itself you?
Yeah.
Why are you so head-centric?
But yeah, for me, it's like suggestion. And like I said, I'm not shitting on gore movies. I fucking love gore movies. You can just do all the bloody, like, intestines and shit all day long. I love that shit. But if a movie is going to, like, scare me, disturb me, like, give me nightmares and stuff like that, it's gonna be suggestion. Yeah. Like I said, the cool thing about The Tenet is he finds a fucking tooth in a hole in the wall, and you're just like, your imagination starts going like, how the fuck did that get in there? What was the situation behind
later
that?
On, he had a tooth missing.
Yeah, and it's like, so I love that kind of shit. And so I think that's why movies like Alice Sweet Alice, movies like, Don't Look Now, which Alice Sweet Alice very much resembles, a lot of it is built on suggestion. A lot of it is built on this kind of character dynamic, like family drama and shit like that. Because Don't Look Now had that as well, like with the grief over the death of their daughter and stuff. And this kind of has a similar vibe. This kind of like horribly dysfunctional family. Yeah. And, all these kind of like oppressive forces like outside of them, like fucking everything up. Nobody has a healthy relationship with one another. And it just like adds to like the terror. Like, they're blaming this poor little 12-year-old girl. And then the fact of them doing that seems like it's leading her down a path that maybe they don't want her to go down.
Yeah.
So I really like that they played with that. You know, he wasn't afraid to, like, play with that kind of shit. I mean, like I said, even though the actress was 19 years old when she was in the movie, but she's supposed to be a 12-year-old kid.
And she looks 12.
She looks like a 12-year-old kid. Yeah. I would never have known. But the fact that he had the balls to, like, put this 12-year-old in the center of this fucked up situation, the fucked up family dynamic, like a fucking serial killer situation also. I mean, I don't know if you... I was going to say I don't know if you could get away with that now, but I think you probably could.
I would put this movie more along the lines of The Other. It's like an Italian-American version of The Other. Yeah. If you like that movie, you'd like this one.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said. And if you like Don't Look Now, you'd love this. It has kind of a Black Christmassy kind of vibe to it, too. And if you like Italian giallo movies from the 70s, then you should check this out because it'd be right up your alley. Like I said, check it out. It's on Tubi for free at this time when we're filming it, which is whatever the hell day it is. September.
Yeah, it may not be there, but it'll be on YouTube.
I checked it earlier today, which is September 1st. Yeah, today's September 1st. When we're filming this, and it was on there a couple hours ago.
It'll probably be on.
So go check it out.
It'll probably be on YouTube.
Yeah, and it is on YouTube if you don't mind watching it in like shitty VHS quality. Yeah. So go check it out. We will see you next time. Bye.